Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Strength Game Podcast. I'm your host, Nick O'Brien, and this is episode number 9. The Strength Game is a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things physical culture with the coaches, athletes, iron enthusiasts, and experts deeply embedded in the strength game on both sides of the profession, as both coaches and as competitive athletes. I want to thank those of you who have liked, shared, commented, and subscribe to the show. Your support allows us to continue to bring on expert guests and highlight more individuals in the strength game, just like our guest today. And in this week's episode, I'm really excited to have on a good friend of mine and former fellow graduate assistant coach at Salisbury with me, Mike Hedlesky. Mike is currently the outreach coordinator at MAC, the Maintaining Active Citizens Incorporated, as well as a highly accomplished powerlifter and the current NSCA Powerlifting SIG Chair. He's done everything from coaching in the private sector, collegiate setting, working with at-risk and elderly clients, as well as been a barbell club coach, a recreation center program manager, in addition to the author of numerous articles and the host of Hamburger Trained Podcast. Like I said, I'm stoked to have him on the show, bring him on for you guys today. So with all that said, let's get into the game with Mike Hedlesky. What's going on, everybody? I'm joined here today with my good friend, former fellow GA with me at the good old Bury, Mike Hedlesky. He's currently the outreach coordinator at MAC Incorporated, working with individuals with dementia and cognitive decline issues as a consultant and their caregivers. He's also a very successful, highly successful competitive powerlifter, the NSCA SIG Chair for the powerlifting group, as well as a new farmer in progress. Hey, I'm glad you're on the show, man. It's great to have you. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on here. Just so cool to see like smart people starting stuff up like this, just like actual people that have been in the trenches a little bit, and then you can find all kinds of strength coaching and, any kind of just strength training information podcasts and stuff like that. And a lot of them are just, 2 hours of fart jokes and stuff and like nothing, not really getting into stuff. So this is cool because I know probably from the, 50,000 hours of conversation we've had up until this point, it's just neat to see like thoughtful people starting stuff like this up for strength and conditioning and everything else. It's awesome, man.
I appreciate it. I hope this is insightful and less fart jokes. We'll keep those for a different episode. But hey, I wanted to get into it. Like I said, you've been a competitive powerlifter for a long time. When I first was introduced to you and I met you at Salisbury, that was what you were doing. You were deep in the trenches and you were getting involved in it. But I want to kind of go beyond like your bio. How'd you kind of get started into it? I know you played football at Salisbury and transitioned to that, but what did you play growing up? What sports did you get involved in, and what led you to this successful powerlifting career?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question. Yeah, I did a little bit everything with sports wise and stuff. I just wasn't very good at any of them. I never really always been kind of like pretty intrinsically motivated. I was a weird kid, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And played a lot of soccer and basketball and stuff like that. And then what really got me into training, I actually started lifting weights, with actual weights and stuff when I was like 11 years old, I think. And I remember seeing like a high school football game when I was in like middle school, and I was just like, man, that's cool. Like I would like to do that. I remember meeting with the coach at one point because they would do these little meetings, little interest meetings and stuff for middle school kids coming up. And I was all nervous and weird and awkward and stuff. And I was like, oh, hey coach, my name's Mike. I want to play football when I get to high school. And he's like looking at me and he's like, Jesus Christ, you got to eat some food and start lifting some weights or you're going to get killed. And I was like, okay. So that just kind of flipped the switch. It kind of never turned off. And that was about, I don't know, Jesus, how old am I now? That was like 25 years ago now, I guess, 20 years ago, whatever it was. But yeah, so anyway, just started really training and stuff. Like I was just doing little stuff when I was in like middle school, but I think it really helped. The two big things that helped was I played sports all the time because I had horrible ADD. So like I wasn't paying attention in school. My parents got me like really heavily involved in sports to kind of try to calm down at least a little bit, burn some energy off. But I grew up on a horse farm too. So like I believe all of that stuff was just like GPP, just like general physical preparedness for like everything else I did for the rest of my life. But so I started lifting weights, and then just had a really, really good response to when I actually started doing heavier lifting when I got into high school and everything. So when I was a freshman, I was still, I'm 6'2" and like 240, just kind of sitting around right now. Then I was under 6 feet tall, and I mean, I only weighed like 160 pounds, something like that. So then when I actually started lifting heavy, like barbell weight stuff between my freshman and my sophomore year, I shot up to 6'2", and I was weighing about like 220. And just like crushing everybody with the lifting stuff and everything. I was already getting stronger than everybody. So I think I just had like, whatever those 22 genes are that, your good response to lifting weights and everything. I think I had a couple of those. But I've had to have two separate meetings in my life from head coaches asking me if I was on steroids. So I consider both of those like I don't know, little trophies and stuff. But yeah, those are the best awards. But yeah, so they just kept the training and everything. I kind of whittled all my sports down to just football in high school. And then I'm never an awesome football player, but I was just stronger than everybody. And I liked hitting people. So that was nice. And then, I got to Salisbury, got to play there. And then I got introduced to powerlifting. Football just riddled with injuries. I've had more orthopedic surgeries and issues and like career ending problems than anyone I've ever met. Like seriously, with my next knee thing, I'm going on surgery number 13, I think, at 35 years old for like orthopedic problems and stuff. But so I was getting beat up. I was getting tired of football. And like a buddy of mine saw a guy doing good mornings with like 160 pounds of chain hanging off the bar at like the Powerhouse gym here in Salisbury. So that guy happened to be a guy named Mike Hill, who is a fabled, renowned, I don't know, psychopath here on the Eastern Shore of Maryland regarding powerlifting and stuff. So I signed up for my first powerlifting meet like a week in advance. I had to call the meet director to get put in and stuff. I went to the meet. I won super heavyweight, and I was pretty close to best lifter at the first meet, and I couldn't believe it. Like I didn't realize how strong I was compared to people that actually do strength sports and everything. And then right after I did that first competition, I was like, man, the only thing I liked about football was lifting weights, getting ready for football. Like, I don't like playing football at all. I hate it. So I still went through it. I did a couple more powerlifting meets my junior year. And then my senior year, I made it through training camp for football. And then I just had enough. I just quit and then just decided to like really, really focus on seeing what I could do with a sport I definitely knew I could go further with. So after that, just completely focused on powerlifting and just the strength. I don't know, just the obsession with figuring out how strength works and how to attain it and everything. Just I've definitely just been a little nuts about it. But yeah, I'm glad I started with it. I'm glad I chose to quit football. God only knows how many problems I'd have now, honestly. And I think the only reason I'm still upright and moving around is because of continuing to lift weights after I got the living shit beat out of me. But yeah. So like since then, I mean, I've been on Team USA over a dozen times. I've been invited to lift at the Arnold at least 10 times now. And then, a couple cool things. I was, when they used to do push-pull nationals, I'm pretty sure I was the last push-pull national champion, which is kind of cool. So I don't think they don't do it anymore because like only 8 people would sign up for the meet because it's push-pull. It's a bench press and a deadlift. Like who gives a shit? But that just sounds cool. And then, I've deadlifted over 800 probably a dozen times in meets or so. And then, just done the pro deadlift for the Arnold a bunch. And then, just done some cool stuff. I won a gold medal in 2013 at the World Championships in Suzdal, Russia, which was a crazy, crazy experience. And it's just, I know it's just been interesting just going from how bad I sucked, like how bad, like little tiny scrawny, looked like you're holding like a fistful of wet spaghetti dangling out of your hand. And then like to be able to like be good at a strength sport. That's part of the reason why I'm just so fascinated with all this stuff. And I try to read everything I can get my hands on just because that transition from suck to suck less is just so interesting to me. But it's just kind of a general rundown. Oh, I'm still the Maryland State Moss Wrestling champion as well, because They only did one state championship like 5 or 6 years ago now, I guess, and they've never done another one. So I'm still the state champion in Moss wrestling too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you're at the top of the list then now for Moss and for the last push-pull. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. I didn't think about it that way. It's funny.
You come to the top of the list for all those. That's pretty cool.
Worthless strength sport champion.
Hey, I'd rather probably push-pull and just take out squat. It probably cuts the meat in half right there.
Well, I think if powerlifting is ever going to be seriously considered for like the Olympics, I think they have to get rid of the squat. Like it's too subjective. You can like, crease the hip below the top of the knee. I've seen very different interpretations of that. And then squatting just looks awful. There's like 12 guys standing on the platform with their hands all over the place. It just looks bad. And then, especially with I compete in like USAPL, IPF and stuff. There's this little teeny tiny little skinny ER rack that you're walking the weight out of, and then there's like 14 dudes with like hands all over the place. It just doesn't look good. But I think they should cut it if they want a serious international presence with like Olympics and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always thought about that too. I wish they would almost take kind of a page out of Strongman's book for the squat, not like a touch and go, because that gets real sketchy real quick. But why have that many spotters on the side and subjectives? But I'm not a powerlifter, so I'm not going to weigh in on any of that. Hey, but you kind of touched on it. You transitioned. You found out pretty early on. Well, I mean, in college, as soon as you got involved in powerlifting, that team sports aren't for me. Like, I'm really good at this powerlifting thing, and you found your niche, and what you wanted to do is work with the barbell. Can you touch a little bit more on why you're drawn to an individual sport over a team sport, and what some of those qualities are for people that are getting out of team sports? What would draw them to like getting involved in a strength sport like powerlifting?
Yeah, definitely. That's an awesome question, because that was in my previous job that I had before I was an outreach coordinator as a program manager at a county rec and parks department. And one of the biggest things I've always tried to do is get more people involved in individual sports. I think there's so many people that would enjoy that stuff so much more. And I've never seen any research on this, but I would be willing to bet the burnout rate in an individual sport is so much lower than a team sport. And everyone I've talked to that's worked with people from anything like that, it's been around team sports and like track and field sports, for example, or like Olympic lifting, something like that. Everybody agrees with that for the most part. Like there's people that do those single person, intrinsically motivated event kind of sports and stuff. They stick around a hell of a lot longer. Like, and that's just, I have zero evidence. I'm just pulling that out of my ass, but it's something I've kind of noticed over the years. But I know with me, I just hit a point, high school was fun and everything, but I was just so much stronger than everybody. Like, I had terrible technique. I was just throwing people around. It wasn't, and we ran like a wing tee offense. So we're literally doing like dive up the middle or toss right, toss left. And I think we passed 4 times in like 4 years of high school football, which was awesome. That's like the best way to play football as far as I'm concerned. But just manhandled people there. So then when I got to college and the competition level got a little bit more, and then I got a little bit more serious about focusing on football and stuff. Still sucked at it, so it didn't really help anything. But I just really noticed it, like, especially when we're sitting in like team meetings and stuff, or we're talking about like any like team disciplinary stuff where like you're held to the standard of just basically the shittiest person on the roster for something like that. Like I didn't really like that. And then it didn't help that I was spoiled through high school. We didn't lose a regular season game while I was on varsity in high school. And then I get to Salisbury, and that year did not lose a regular season game until we got to the playoffs. We lost the first game of the playoffs. And then I think it was the following year we lost like the 3rd or 4th game of the season. And I had like a nervous breakdown over it. I didn't know what to do. Like I wasn't used to, but meanwhile there's, kids that kind of come from shittier programs that are really good athletes and stuff, just didn't even care about it very much. I don't know. I really like winning a lot. And I like being like personally responsible for that win or that loss, really. So just, I don't know. I just like I said, just, that team kind of derailed a little bit and just had some we had to like run for like kids getting in fights at parties on the weekends and stuff, like just a bunch of dumb college shit and stuff. But that really turned me away from it. But yeah, I wish there was more access to individual sports for like kids and stuff. I mean, it's hard to find even like, especially like around here, Eastern Shore of Maryland, not a whole lot going on in the way of like even like track and field programs for kids and stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of, I know I didn't talk about working on it before, but another thing I'm kind of been kicking around for a while is considering getting like a nonprofit started that basically all it would be is an after school lifting program. So like kids would come in, learn how to lift weights and stuff like that. I think I already have like a facility in mind that would be cool with it. And then, just like get up with some of the food trucks in the area, restaurants or something, and make sure they always have like a hot meal to have when they get done, stuff like that. And then, I've talked to a couple other people that have started like nonprofits and stuff, and I'm really considering moving forward with that. I have zero, I don't know where I'm going to find the time to do all this stuff, but that's the big thing. Like I think I knew I didn't like team sports when I was younger. There just wasn't anything else to do. So like if I could find like, a handful of kids that are really, really into lifting weights, get them up with some of the better Olympic lifting coaches around here. If they're interested in doing strongman or powerlifting or something, at least that's exposure to something competitive. It's 100% reliant on what they're willing to put in on it. And I think, you've been here too, especially around here. There's a lot of kids that, have a pretty shit start and things, So I think like, just learning that the lessons that kind of individual sports teach about like individual responsibility, I think is like super important too. But yeah, we'll see. Again, that's on my list of like a million things that I want to do, and I'm not sure I'm actually going to get started or not.
I hear you. No, I like all that. I mean, I kind of see it since I have wrestling here too. It's individual, but there's a team aspect to it. And I think a lot of the team sports I work with, like baseball, lacrosse, like volleyball, those ones, like they're good at working in a team, but most of the time they don't end up playing their sport or anything like that after. Like maybe you play in a rec softball league and stuff like that, but it's not the same. There's like Donnie Schenkel and other guys that like former like almost Olympian, but guys like that are still training their sport because, I mean, you too, like you've been through a lot of injuries and you've had a lot of success and some highs and lows throughout your career, and you're still finding a way to train and get involved in strength sports in an individual. And I know people say like, oh, well, what about the community, the camaraderie, the team aspect of that? You get that. You guys train together the whole time. The only time you're really a true individual, even in combat sports and stuff, is when you're on the platform, like you're in the cage, you guys are wrestling each other, you're swimming against each other, whatever it ends up being. But the rest of the time, you guys are training together. You get all that, and then you actually get that self-realization, that accountability. I don't understand that's why America's probably in a bad position for youth sports, and that's why we're getting smacked around by other countries and everything. But no, I like the barbell club idea and being able to kind of get that set and going. When you kind of talk about your evolution with training and everything, like I said, you've been through a bunch of injuries. You've had a lot of different competitions and training goals. From your time first getting involved in powerlifting, how's your training kind of evolved? I know you've done a lot of West Side methods and you trained with Dr. Zordis and did all the DUP, the daily undulating periodization stuff up to your current point. How's that kind of evolved and what's been your strategy going forward?
Yeah, it's been it's definitely changed since I started getting interested in this stuff. Yeah, crap. Sorry, man. My internet connection just went out for a second. I think we're good. Yeah, it's definitely changed. Changed since I got started for sure. Like when I first really started focusing on like lifting for strength and not just like the football workouts that I'd kind of been handed for forever. I was really lucky that Westside was the first kind of powerlifting oriented training that I was ever like exposed to. So like I mentioned that guy Mike Hill, when I met him at the competition that I went to, my first one, he just kept ranting and raving about West Side and the articles on the website and everything. This is in like 2005. So I mean, there's like 3 training websites that exist at that point right there. So like Yeah, so I remember when I got back from the competition, it was that Sunday night. I sat up all night and I read every single article that they had published on the site, just because it was like blowing my mind. I'd never seen stuff like that before. So like I totally had this like bastardized version of it that I didn't really know what I was doing, where I was basically coming to the gym 3 days a week. So I was still trying to play football, and I didn't want to like stress myself out like crazy doing a lifting and stuff. So my program was literally going I'd warm up and everything. So like Monday was squat, Wednesday was bench, and Friday was deadlift. And my working sets were 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 1. So I'd rotate emphasis on which one of those rep ranges I was taking like serious for the week. So like if I felt really good, like maybe like, okay, I'll try to push the 2 as hard as I can this week, or like, you know, maybe I'll try to really get like that second single. I'm going to really try to like work on really hard. Or if I felt like crap, be like, okay, I'll try to do a heavy 5 and then just like take that same weight for the other reps and everything, which looking back at now, that's literally like the entire BFS program summed up into like one thing, like varying set and rep emphases and stuff. But it's funny. But like, so after, I mean, I got pretty strong doing that. And I think it was just kind of exposure to doing heavy singles that I'd never done before, you know, and I started moving like a little bit more weight and everything. And then you just can't, I realized very, very quickly that I can only get so strong just squatting, just benching, and just deadlifting. So that's when I really started learning about like the max effort method and stuff. And then like the dynamic effort method, like keeping the exercises the same, just like focusing on speed and volume and workloads and stuff like that. And then like I really started training like a hardcore, like as best my understanding was for West Side, probably right after I got done with football. Because I mean, I had plenty of free time to start doing it and everything. So, you know, I just got into that. And then like, I basically didn't change anything until like probably, I think it was 2014, I think, when I started working with Dr. Zorda. So he was the GA when I was an undergrad intern at Salisbury. Somehow by some like twist of fate, and now he puts out like some of the coolest powerlifting research too. Fun fact, I actually got him to sign up for his first meet, and it was a bench only, and he did it in single ply. So like I had to meet him at the gym more than once at like 3 o'clock in the morning, because it was just me and him coaching teams, and that was it. It was him as a GA, me, and some other guy that never showed up. So like literally we'd get there at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would just like somehow squeeze his ass into this tiny little bench shirt. And then I just thought that was so funny. His first meet was just a bench only meet in like Standardsville, Virginia, or some shit ass place. But now he puts out so much cool research on the stuff. But yeah, so then I started working with his like DUP program and stuff. He was just kind of helping me out. I just wanted to change to see if there was anything I could do to kind of get a little better. And this is like after I started experiencing some of the bigger injuries that I had and stuff. And just curious if there's anything I can do to kind of push the limits. And you know, DUP and the way Mike does it is awesome. And Mike is a super smart guy. I'm not built for higher frequency training. So, I mean, I just got run down. Like I got really, really run down. Actually, it's such a weird problem. I got a sports hernia from squatting too much, which I'm not sure, like I wasn't sure that could actually happen. So like a sports hernia is when like your adductor starts flexing so hard, it starts peeling bone off of your hip pretty much. So I was having some weird little like avulsion fractures on my adductors from, you know, squatting like 4 or 5 days a week and like going pretty ham on it most of the time. So I stuck with that for like probably like a year and a half, and then went back to conjugate training and, you know, back to the West Side stuff. That's still what I'm doing now. You know, there's little tweaks and stuff like that, but I mean, the structure of it, I truly believe this is like the best kind of training for like a lifelong strength athlete, because you can tailor it to anything. I mean, I was still able to do West Side after getting like 9 metal anchors put in my shoulder. I was still able to do West Side after getting like a cadaver cartilage transplants and stuff in my knees. Like you can still find a way to do this stuff, just if you kind of understand the system and the principles and the methods and stuff. So I mean, it's not as complicated as a lot of people make it out to be. I actually wrote an article years ago, just if anyone's actually interested in like the beginner aspects, like a West Side style program. It was on lift.net was the name of the website, and it's the title of the article is just an advanced system for beginners. And I wrote that years ago, but I still get like tons of emails and people like shooting me questions about it and stuff. So I know mean, that information's still like applicable and everything. It's still stuff I would suggest, but it kind of breaks down the more complicated aspects of it just to make it, you know, a little bit easier to figure out like what weights you need to use on dynamic effort day and how to actually pick, you know, max effort lifts. And then one of the biggest problems I've noticed that people do is they don't do enough volume on max effort day. So like a lot of times people will do their last warm up, go for a single, either hit it and miss it, and no matter what, they just stop. You know, that's not enough. You need to do a little bit more, definitely, to get stronger and stuff. But yeah, just kind of explaining some of that stuff. But yeah, I think that's the reason I've seen some of the success that I have seen is just because of like serial killer like consistency with the stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, it really hasn't changed too much. I'm still using the same principles, same methods, and then yeah, I'm definitely a little bit older. I'm definitely way more beat up after the last 2 major surgery things that I had, but I'm getting back into it. I just did a meet this past weekend and totaled 1525. So that's exactly what I totaled in my first competition ever. And like, I wasn't pushing it too hard or anything. I didn't super train for it, but I mean, I'm still there's there was a chance of me not being able to squat to depth again after the last surgery that I had. And I mean, and I actually got called for depth the first time ever. And I've never been called for depth on squats before, except for this last meet that I did. I was so pissed off. Like, I didn't know what to do. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, I really truly believe it's such a good system for like lifelong strength endeavors. You know what I mean?
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I saw that. I was going to say congrats on that too. I didn't realize it was the same exact total. I knew you were going for over 1,500. But I didn't realize it was the exact same as your first one. You still got it.
Yeah, right. So I got a 3-year plan from this point on where there's a study that came out a little while ago where it was talking about like optimal number of times to compete throughout the year. Like how many times do people compete in powerlifting and still see like progress every time they compete? So this one, it was just kind of a little crappy survey study, but the results are kind of interesting. So like most success is seen when people compete 4 times a year. So when you think about it, I mean, how many 12-week programs are there out there? That's like perfect. That perfectly fits into 4 13-week programs, I guess. But it's yeah, that's part of my plan. I'm going to do we have a mock meet planned at the gym here December 5th. And my goal is to just add 10 pounds to each of my lifts and then just go to a meet 12 weeks after that, do 10 more pounds on each of my lifts. I figure by the end of, hopefully if I don't die, by the end of 3 years, I'll almost be a master's 1. And then I'll be like back near kind of my raw total numbers that I was before, but we'll see how that works out.
No, that's a great plan. And that's great advice. I remember reading that article, and I know you've talked about it before that, I mean, most of the stuff in there is still applicable now. There's probably some few things that have changed within the times or the volume or anything like that. But I mean, the beginning stuff is simple. And I know you've probably got way more people asking you beginner questions like that than I do. But I know anytime someone does anything, you just have to be consistent with the program, no matter what it is. And you've showed it. You've done it for years at a time, and then only when it's kind of reached its maximum, like, did you go from conjugate style to DUP and then realize, all right, well, this way is better. So finding whatever actually works for you and then morphing it to that point, because I mean, I can't do that much volume either before I get beat up. So that's awesome. And that's great advice for beginners, intermediates, advanced, anybody. Like, you got to find a program that works for you, stick to it, and be consistent all the time.
Yeah, it's definitely a trendy thing the last couple of years too, to just hop on these higher frequency programs, these like Shaco squat cycle things that that Shaco admits he didn't write, and like it's just people on the internet just bastardizing other people's concepts and everything. But like yeah, the high frequency stuff, you have to be like, oh man, you need years of training under your belt. You need years of work capacity built up. There's very few people I've met that have been able to like really just smash high frequency training. Even if you're really meticulously tracking volumes and stuff, I think, especially for people that are trying to do like drug-free lifting and everything like that, you need, like, the recovery time is so underemphasized, I guess, in a lot of these programs, and like recovery methods are so underemphasized. So especially like, me, I'm an old broken piece of shit now. So like focusing on that stuff is like all the more important and everything. So yeah, that's yeah, you hit the nail on the head too with consistency. Like I joke around with people when they're asking me questions like that, and like okay, like you might not want to do West Side or conjugate training, but like whatever, like ask yourself when you're looking at a program or some kind of training method or something like that, can I do this for 10 years without stopping or changing anything? Like, can I go from where I am now for 10 straight years? And like, this is something I can see myself like adding to, obviously progressing with things like that. And then if the answer is no, it's probably a shitty program, like it's not something like the long-term game is so much more important in strength sports. Just like you were talking about earlier, I think the guy that has the deadlift world record in the 120 kilo class is, I think he's in his 40s. It's like 819 or something like that right now. So like, I mean, it's just, this is a long-term project, and I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah. You hit it too. If you could overhead press, deadlift, bench, and squat 4 days a week, just that with decent volume for 10 years, you're going to get stronger. I don't care what you do. And you're probably going to be healthy too, because you're not putting a lot of fluff and dumb shit in the program. And it's really that. You said it exactly. It's the long-term game. And I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it in strongman. I've seen it in the Highland Games. Like, people we compete come out and like blow it out of the water a first competition of their first year, and then they're getting surgery or they're doing something different. Most of those programs are thinking of it in a short-term gain, like, oh, to peak you for something, but they're not taking anything into account except for training, not recovery, your job, all that other stuff that kind of gets thrown in there. And that's a great segue to kind of what I want to discuss with you. You mentioned a lot of the injuries and stuff that you have sustained, like maybe from programming or just from overuse or whatever it ends up being. And still to date, one of my favorite articles you've written is the meat versus rice principle. And I still use that, and I still find ways to jack up my own rehab. But will you touch on that briefly? And then what are some of the other keys that kind of keep you on course when you sustain an injury, whether it's be like something that is actually surgical that requires rehab, or maybe something small that kind of just throws you off your normal training period?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Yeah, definitely that is like a whole separate skill set, I think, like knowing, like kind of self-diagnosing right when something goes wrong, and then figuring out like, okay, do I need to go to a hospital right now, or is this something I can work through? But like, yeah, like I mentioned before, some of the injuries I've had, oh my God, I've had 2 different hernias repaired. Yeah, because of that, I have like a titanium mesh screen in my stomach. I've actually got 2 of them in my stomach now. Got like 9 metal anchors in my left shoulder. I got 16 cadaver transplants in my right knee. I've had surgery on an osteochondral defect like 3 times in my left ankle, and just all kinds of stuff. And then I've got this hand is mostly plate and screws in it and stuff, but just falling apart. But I think like, man, I've got a weird answer to this. It's just like, I've been doing it like for so long, and I've just like invested so much into it. I feel like I don't have an option. Like, I feel like there's no choice but to like, okay, like I just lobbed my leg off with a chainsaw. Like how can I adjust my, dynamic effort percentages to be able to keep like doing it, like that's always been like the first, I don't know. That's always been like the first concern of mine is like, all right, how can I keep moving and keep doing this stuff? But yeah, definitely some of those principles, like the meat versus rice thing, I'm a much bigger proponent of just like, movement and treatment, and instead of just like putting ice on it, elevate it till you feel better and stuff. Because a lot of times it doesn't feel any fucking better, and that doesn't do anything to kind of, it doesn't do anything to address whatever the underlying thing is. So I think the best thing people can do when they get hurt, and especially if they have like chronic problems or getting hurt a lot, is really pinpoint where the pain is, and then read everything you can get your hands on of what causes it. Like a lot of times I really think there should be a basic level of self-maintenance that everybody is capable of that does sports like this. And then especially like a sport, like I'm not going to make $1 million off of powerlifting or anything. It's something I really enjoy doing, but like, being able to take care of myself so I can still like, move shit around on the farm is important to me later on and things like that. So like, just learning everything you can, I think. And then I know every time I've ever had a surgery or something, I just try to figure out, okay, what is the least amount of movement I can do as soon as possible. I just think the movement piece is key. So many people want to rest, and that's not, that might be the worst thing for it if you just sit there, let it atrophy, let that trauma from whatever surgery that you had just kind of take over and stuff. And I remember with my last knee surgery, well, first off, it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. They had to go in, shave down the back of my kneecap a little bit. This is how it's shaped. And then because it literally so this issue wasn't from sports. It was basically I have a weird little nodule on the back of my kneecap that basically been shearing articular cartilage off every time I did anything since I was little. So this, it's pretty crazy. I found out I have it on my other knee too. So I'm probably gonna have to get that done at some point. But so what they did was they went in, scraped all the old shit out, and then they actually used some PRP, and they took cadaver articular cartilage paste from 16 dead people and plastered it all in there. So it feels great now. It really does. It's been 2.5 years or so. It feels awesome. But with that one, I mean, after that they had me in a CPM machine immediately after. So it's literally a machine. I had to put my leg in, strap it in, and it just kind of rotates your knee like this. And I had to be in that thing for 7 hours a day. It was awful because like I mentioned, as soon as that nerve block wore off, I didn't want to live anymore, let alone move. That was an undescribable amount of pain. I don't know how people deal with chronic pain issues or anything like that, because that was nuts. But I guess just learning everything you can about why that spot hurts, trying to figure out, I forget who originally said this principle, but a lot of times pain is coming, the origin of your pain is coming from above or below that joint, most likely. It's never pain, that pain you feel, especially overuse problems, is never where, your problem is never where you feel it. That is some kind of compensatory system of something, some malalignment somewhere else, you know what I mean? But those are my two biggest things. Just learn about it and move as soon as you can.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that's come in handy for me. I use that a lot with my athletes. My problem is definitely, Andy knows it too. And now that he's a PT, I lean on him a lot with all this stuff. I like to nick it up and do over an abundance of movement. And whatever is prescribed for 5 sets of 10 or holding for 30 seconds, I do 10 times a day, and I make it worse. So, but hey, that is great advice. Nothing's going to happen when you're just stagnant and you're not doing anything. Nothing's going to change. If at all, your body's going to shut down. It's going to get back to its most comfortable position and find a way to slowly die. And that's what happens with rice.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's movement cures so many things, and it's everybody is such a proponent of movement to make yourself healthy and just to be a more functioning human and stuff. And then when I've never understood okay, I'm hurt, now I need to stop moving because this is going to be better somehow. You're slowly dying when you're healthy and not moving. How does it not slowly or kill you a little bit faster if you're hurt and not moving, That's just the kind of the way I've always thought about it, I guess.
No, that's exactly. And then, the pain above and below. I think Kelly Starrett said that.
He stole it from somebody, though.
I don't know who originally had it.
Yeah.
But no, that's a great thing. And then, you talked about, too, with a daily activity, at the end of the day, all our strength sports and stuff, if you're so beat up and you're doing stuff wrong and you can't, now you're working on a farm, the farm waits for no one. If you don't feed Bebop, then we're in trouble. So if you're so beat up from training and you just push yourself to limit and you're not taking recovery and anything into account, your daily life, your activity, I can't imagine being in chronic pain and self-induced chronic pain when you're lifting and you're doing stuff improperly and you're not taking any sort of precaution to be smart with some preventative measures or do some rehab on your own. You are mentally digging your own grave a lot sooner, even physically as well. But Enough about injuries. I know those are not on the forefront you want to talk about.
Tired of having them.
I hear you. So kind of going off that topic from like the lows of that, and then kind of more to the highs of what we talked about in the beginning, like your success in powerlifting. Like we said before, like you had a very successful career among being 13-time Arnold Sports Festival invitee, 10-time USA team powerlifter, and the 2013 gold medalist in the deadlift and the IPF. Like those are awesome things, just to name a few. I mean, countless other competitions and invitationals and things along that line, like the MAS, all that other stuff. Like you've put your body through the torture chamber for success. But the biggest thing, like outside of that, what kind of motivates you not only to compete in those sports and have success on the platform, but continue to compete? What drives you? Like you win a gold medal in 2013. Like, what do you do next? You just do the same exact thing for 2014? What kind of motivates you to be successful? And then what continues that motivation when you do see success?
That's a great question too. Yeah, like I kind of mentioned before, I've just always done it. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't particularly enjoy training that much, to be totally honest. Like I love competing. Like it's cool finding something that I can just like work at and be super competitive at. And it's something, with quantifiable real results that come to fruition in a competition and stuff. But yeah, I've just always, I didn't even realize how much I liked lifting weights until like doing my first powerlifting competition. And this, how I had like a little bit of a genetic propensity for strength and everything. But again, I really think consistency played more of a part in all that stuff than anything. So yeah, I don't know, I just can't see myself ever like, I see shit on like social media and stuff where people like retire from powerlifting. Like you're retiring from wasting like a couple $100 on a weekend to go like win like a $5 plastic trophy. Like maybe like, okay, that's cool and all, but yeah, I just really enjoy doing it. Like I have like a weird obsession with seeing like how far stuff like this can go, I guess. I remember when I first like really started focusing on it, one of my biggest goals is like 800-pound deadlifts were like few and far between then. I was like, I think I'm capable of doing an 800-pound deadlift. And then I did it in single ply a couple of times and stuff. I must have failed an 800+ pound deadlift 5 or 6 times in like a raw one in meets before I actually got it. And like, that's just, I was like so fired up when I got that. There's like, I don't know, there's few feelings as awesome as like that work you put into some kind of physical endeavor coming to fruition like that. It's just something that's so, I don't know, again, I guess it's more intrinsically motivating and stuff like that. And like, there's just few feelings that you put, like you said, like put myself through the ringer and then just see something cool like that happen. And I know people invest this kind of bandwidth into all kinds of stuff, but yeah, just, I don't know, powerlifting's always been pretty, I don't know, the focus for all that stuff for me anyway. So I know it's kind of a weird answer, but yeah, it's like I don't know, I wouldn't know how to like structure a like routine for my life if there wasn't some kind of like physical test going on, if that makes any sense. Like it's a weird, I don't know, that's a weird one. That's a tough one for me to answer.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I know quarantine, there was points in time like when I wasn't training and I was an asshole.
Yeah.
And I can feel it coming. Even, I mean, I know personally I like training for a competition or for something specific because strongman is so unique that you never know what the events are. And I know I'm going to get myself hurt if I'm just like, I feel like doing yoke today. Like, that's probably not a good idea to just kind of mix and match what I feel like is appropriate. I'd rather have a set goal in mind. And I know when there was no everything was getting canceled, like left and right. I was like, all right, well, I have to just kind of pick a date and do my own kind of thing, which is, I can't see myself not doing anything, even if it eventually evolves into something where I'm not competing in strongman. I'm not going to retire. I was never a professional to begin with, so I don't understand any of that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hey, but kind of shifting gears too, like we did mention, you are on the farm now. You got a new property. You're starting to collect all the animals. You've got some acreage. First off, how's farm life? And and has it changed your training at all, or kind of how you approach training? I know we can kind of talk about part of your super secret project later, but has it changed how you like approach your training? Or because like we talked about, your daily activity, you have to make sure that you can fulfill all the stuff on the farm in conjunction with your training. So what's kind of changed since you've actually moved in there?
For right now, not too much. We are still in like the very, very beginning stages of this stuff, and like we're still kind of like I have a goal that by the end, it was originally by the end of this month. I might push it back to the end of next month just to make sure I get all the information lined up and everything. But actually set up like a business plan, like a real like legit business plan for what we need to do. I already incorporated the farm. We're 42 acres. That's the name of the farm. There's a literary reference there, but like. So I mean, we've got everything kind of set up to have like a legit operation going on. But right now we've got like 35 chickens, and we've got two big cooney pigs, and that's really all we're working with right now. So it hasn't changed too much. I'm definitely going to start taking that into account for some of the plans that we have here. Like we really do want to start like a legit like grass finished meat operation. So we want to get some cows, we want to get some more chickens. Our next little project, we're like halfway done building a little brooder for a bunch of meat chickens and stuff. So we're gonna try raising them, and then we just got a bunch of ideas, a lot of like agricultural stuff. Like I've always felt terrible eating food and not knowing where it came from, and like I've always loved animals too. So I mean it's kind of a screwed up thing to say that like, all right, we're going to raise these things and eat them all, but I love animals at the same time. But it's like, nature is horrifying. So, I mean, they're going to have a slow death from disease. They're going to get mauled by a predator. Nothing ever just grows old and like makes a little bed of leaves and lays down in it and dies. And like, I catch shit from vegetarians when I'm being an asshole on the internet arguing about this stuff all the time. Like, how can you love animals and want to kill them? Like, because they're fucking delicious. I don't know what to tell you, man. But like it's going to be cool to see like exactly where they all come from, and then I don't know. We've got a bunch of plans for the place, and it's kind of all over the place. So just to sit down and like streamline and organize everything. We do want to do like hopefully do some like hemp, maybe grow some hemp and stuff like that with that hemp farming bill going on, and then it's really interesting around here on the Eastern Shore. I was very surprised to find out that there aren't too many kind of like community industrial kind of composting operations going on either, like a food waste management kind of thing. So there's all kinds of like grants from the government and Department of Agriculture and stuff for things like that. So yeah, we got a lot of plans that are going to require a lot of work, and that's kind of one of my goals to hopefully within the next year to be really investing a lot more time into that, like professionally anyway. So we still got some time to figure it out. Like I said, we just moved here. We still got to sell the other house that we were living in too. So that's still just kind of sitting there. But yeah, it's nothing, like I said, nothing's changed too much. Like taking care of pigs is easier than taking care of dogs. Like you do less. Like I try to talk to people about this. They don't believe me. Like our 35 chickens take, we feed them, make sure they have water and stuff. And like we actually use their run to throw like old food scraps in. So they have like a little composting area inside of there. I mean, they just eat that stuff. They're happy. They just walk around, poop eggs out. It's awesome. So like, the pigs, they like come when you call them. They'll like lay down on your feet when you're scratching them and stuff. But I mean, other than going out and feeding them and make sure they're doing all right, I mean, they could come in here and live in the house just fine. If we put the dogs outside, they'd be dead in a day. Like they wouldn't survive. It's seriously easier to take care of a damn pig than a dog. That's
awesome. Yeah, I've been loving following the progress of everything, and I know you got big plans. So I like we talked about, most people I mean, your resume is as eclectic and extensive as it gets. I mean, like I said, you're a podcaster. Like, you've got your own podcast. You've changed over from Bourbons to Barbell. It's Hamburger Trained now, right?
Yeah, I thought that was a little catchier. And
Yeah.
bourbon and barbell sounds like some crappy lifestyle brand thing too. Like I'm selling like wristbands or something, like sweatbands or some shit like that. I don't know. I didn't really like it that much. I don't know why I picked that.
That's good. And then Powerlifter, outreach coordinator. You are still a bourbon connoisseur, though.
Oh yeah, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Online coach and research junkie. I mean, you're a professional Redditor too, I believe, and which kind of helps. And like, you've got a certification in everything from CrossFit to CSCS, USAW, Westside, and a shitload of. I mean, you even got your EMT and research, a lot of research evidence, and you've been competing forever. What your best total is 1927 in competition. You got a master's, you've got football experience, you got everything. What's kind of next? I know we discussed a little bit. What's next with Battle Farm?
Oh yeah, man. Well, yeah, like I mentioned, I kind of got this this newer job a little closer to home and stuff, so I can focus on some of these cool things I want to do. Like, especially like I really see the farming aspect stuff being like a big part here moving on. Just especially with COVID and all the weird stuff. Like I've been thinking more and more about like legacy kind of stuff, not to sound too weird about it or anything, but like what's something that I can contribute to this world that'll actually be here after I'm dead, probably in 3 years based on how my body feels right now. But like, so Battle Farm is another little operation. So that's incorporated. That's all good to go. I've got to organize one more little thing before it's like 100% in full swing. But so Battle Farm is going to be a rec video game league business for the most part. So all I'm going to do is, recruit people, pick games, pick formats and stuff like that. But it's going to be, think like co-ed, adult softball, but for video games. So it's going to be, just doing all kinds of tournaments and stuff like that. But then organizing legit rec leagues. And then another aspect of it is I used to, like, my previous job was working in like county government rec and park stuff. So there's a whole recreation profession of people that are really interested in running video game tournaments because of how popular they are, especially with COVID now. It's like blown up. But I was telling you about it. I actually did like a little webinar where I was explaining how to run like a virtual Fortnite competition for literally like 60 Maryland rec and parks professionals that were interested in it a couple of months ago. So it's just the second part of it's going to be consulting with those recreation departments and schools. I mean, I've really thought about like approaching some different like schools in the area and seeing if they're like willing to form like esports teams. And there's like a high school esports league that you can like register through, and it helps applying for like grants and stuff like that. I think it'd be pretty neat to eventually get a little county championship thing going on with anybody that's interested in it. But looking into that Fortnite thing, I found out the average age of people that play video games is 32 and 34 for women and men. That is the average. And I know, it's great. Like it's interesting. So I mean, it's not just like little kids or like little nerdy kids playing video games anymore either. And then you read there's all kinds of crossover now. It used to be that it was a little nerdy, introverted, quiet kids were all sitting there playing video games, not talking to anybody. And then the athletes went and did their own stuff. But there's a lot of crossover now where, it was something like, what was that? I don't want to screw it up. I think it was 72% of households in the United States have somebody that live in it that play video games regularly. Like that's a mind-blowing statistic. And around here anyway, there's no competitive outlets for it. So with Battle Farm, that's what it's going to be. So we're going to be able to run these tournaments, and people are going to be able to compete in them like at their own home. So running online versions of these games is definitely, as you can imagine, there are a lot of weird little issues to deal with, and it seems super complicated. But I think I've got a pretty good system dialed in, and I'm fired up to get it going. It should be interesting. But yeah, just something I've always wanted to do. I did it at my previous job where I ran a bunch of free tournaments while COVID and the lockdown was going on, just to give kids in the area stuff to do, something competitive where they could talk to each other. And there's such a newer video game research is like totally pulling a 180 on stuff like social interaction and stuff like that, because all the newer video games are so heavily team-based and team-oriented that you need to have a lot of really good communication skills to like run through a game successfully. So so I don't know, it just seemed cool. Seems like a good time, and it's something I like doing, just stuff I'm interested in. So like I mentioned to you before the podcast started, I can now literally write off everything I spend money on with all these LLCs that I've started up. They're all business expenses now. So video games, bourbon, pig food, pretty much good to go. But man, I'm excited to get it rolling here. I just got one more little step to do, and then it'll be all good to go.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm excited. I think that's awesome. And like I told you before, like I'm starting to see esports and everything pop up a lot more. And I didn't know any of those stats. And honestly, if you would have gave me the chance to guess, I would have not said 72%. And I would have not known, besides watching some new stuff about like all the old school arcade games and everything, that the popularity of it exceeds most of our sports, all of our sports, in attendance and participation, which is crazy. So that's awesome, man. Congrats on that.
Yeah, man. Like looking at like viewership numbers and stuff like that, like the people that watched, like there was the Fortnite World Cup. First of all, the 16-year-old kid that won the Fortnite World Cup last year won $3 million. That is more than you win for singles at Wimbledon. Think about that. Just think about that for a second. So even if you finish in the top 100 of that tournament, you win $50,000. Yeah, that's wild, man. So like, yeah, so dude, it's so there's so much money involved. There's just a lot of cool stuff going on with it too, because there's all these popular streamers that are making money. Like some of the stats I looked up for that webinar presentation, you got that guy Ninja. His name's Tyler Blevins, and he's really popular for streaming Fortnite and stuff. So when he was in January 2019, when he was at kind of the height of his popularity and everything, he was making $500,000 a month streaming video games 40 hours a week. Yeah, I know, man. There's all kinds. It's wild, dude. That's I've been looking into that as well. Like I don't have a nice enough computer to do streaming stuff, but I think I'm gonna build like a nice gaming PC and then just might actually start like streaming workouts and stuff too. I've seen a lot of people using Twitter and some of the other ones, not Twitter, Twitch. I see people using Twitch to stream a lot of their like workouts and stuff now, and they're getting a lot of views. And it's just just interesting stuff. I don't know. There's so like I feel like to be successful with the stuff I really enjoy doing, it's like got to take this a little bit more creativity in COVID times and stuff. And like I said, that kind of really triggered kind of going for all this stuff I really enjoy. I'm just tired of working for people, and like, just like I hate having times where I'm like, what am I doing here? Like why am I here right now? Like I don't know. Just trying to figure out a way to do all the stuff I really enjoy and like be able to survive off of it. But yeah, so that I'm super pumped for that.
That's awesome. That's gonna be cool to see actually come to fruition. I mean, I know that feeling exactly of not wanting to feel obligated to do something. I stole it from Matt Vincent. His one of his taglines is "fuck yes or no." Like if I don't say fuck yes to it, then I'm out. Like that's what it's got to be. We're on, like we said, we're on this earth for a short amount of time. I want to do what I want to do. I don't want to be obligated to do all these things. And unfortunately, that's what being stuck at a corporate job or behind a desk kind of looks like. Even though our positions are pretty outliers compared to being in a cubicle all the time, at some point in time, you're still like, I could get more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome though, man. Hey, so we end the show like any good training session with a finisher. I don't know if Westside does too many finishers, but this is your good pump up session here. So 4 quarters, 4 questions. You could take as much time as you want, or you can fire them off fast, rapid fire. But here we go. Biggest influence in the strength conditioning field or coaching, and biggest influence in weight and powerlifting.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer is Louis Simmons for me for powerlifting and stuff, just because, I mean, he might even be my answer for strength conditioning too, because I mean, he took a lot of complicated concepts and, you know, turned them into like easily digestible stuff, like all those old Russian training manuals and stuff, made sense of them and made them applicable. And I don't think a lot of people know this about Westside, but they do tons of consulting with like NFL teams, college sports teams and stuff. So just kind of, and it's like none of this shit he made up. Like he didn't make any of this stuff up. He just converted it to a more digestible, applicable form, you know? So definitely him. I mean, I still read, I still go on XL Athlete and read all Cal Dietz's stuff. Like that's awesome. And then definitely Verkhoshansky, like without a doubt, just the stuff. I don't know if you ever like go on and look at his forum that's still like a little active, dude. There are articles in there that are some of like the like most, I love reading his stuff. Like I barely understand what he's saying most of the times because he's so damn smart. Like you have to sit there with like a thesaurus and like a physiology textbook to really understand. But yeah, probably I put those three at the top for pretty much both of them, honestly.
That works. All right. Outside all your new business adventures in the farm and training, what can you be found doing? What are some of your other hobbies? Damn,
I don't really have any. That's really about it. Like I'm trying to turn the stuff I really enjoy doing into stuff I can do and like, yeah, make a living off of. So that's it. I've been playing bass guitar for like 15 years, 20 years, geez. But haven't picked that up in a little while. It's been too busy. But that stuff, reading, playing video games, that's about it when I got time.
I like it. All right. Big question then. If not powerlifting, what sport would you have picked?
Wish there was more places to do Moss wrestling. That'd be awesome. Just from being like a tall guy, being an explosive guy, and having like a big deadlift, I was smoking people in Moss wrestling until I went to Las Vegas for an international championship and got my ass handed to me by Martin Likas. So that was exciting. And then I realized like how much I suck at that too. So then I stopped doing it. So yeah, I wish that was more readily available around here. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure I would find something like that. That's a weird one. I would love to keep doing that.
That's cool to have on your resume though. I wouldn't mind losing to him. That'd be awesome.
Dude, I was like a rag doll, like just a dead body. He just threw me over the board. It was demoralizing. It was awesome.
All right. Ideal training day. What's your go-to PR song or playlist? And what's your go-to post meal?
Oh man, that's a good one, dude. I love listening to sad music when I'm working out. Like if I could find some down tempo, like 90s grunge music, or I don't know how many people are even going to know these guys. Like I listen to like Modest Mouse or like the Pixies and shit when I'm working out. Like I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. I love like the Nirvana B-sides where he's like doing covers like old country songs about like shooting yourself. Those are perfect because it's pretty much my mindset and my motivation while I'm going through a training session. Post-workout meal. Ooh, man, probably just like a country fried steak and sausage gravy would be fantastic. I feel like that puts everything back in order.
Nice. All right, last one. We're going to go for overtime. Favorite or most memorable under the bar experience, either in competition or in training?
Ooh, geez. I've got some weird ass stories from this. You do anything long enough, I guess. I'll just go with the one I thought of right off the top of my head. So the first equipped nationals I went to, Brian Siders was still lifting, which if you want your mind blown, just Google Brian Siders squat and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about immediately. Cause he would squat 900 something pounds like an empty bar. It is the most mind blowing thing I've ever seen in real life. So two funny things happen, and I forget where you can find this video, but it's pretty funny. So in the warm-up room, before he goes out for his first couple squats, he walks in. There's only about 15 minutes left before this flight of lifters goes to lifts. He walks in with a bag of Ruby Tuesdays that is full of just plain hamburgers. So he sits down in a chair and just takes his time eating these hamburgers. And he's like talking to a guy that came with him, and the guy is just loading weights on the bar. He hasn't started warming up yet. He's just loading weights on the bar while he's sitting there eating hamburgers. So now there's about 600 pounds on the bar. So I'm watching, like I should have been warming up, and I'm just watching this guy do this stuff because he's the most like cartoonishly large human being I've ever seen in my life. So like he's like walking over, he finishes the last bite of this like third cheeseburger that I just watched him eat. Then he goes and gets under the bar, unracks, he's still chewing it. He doesn't have a belt on at this point yet either, so he's chewing. The guy in the rack in front of him in the warm-up room just like blew his fucking quad out. Like while he was squatting, bar went flying up in the air, it hit the ground, and like there's people like running past Brian while he's standing there with like the weights, with like the weight on his back, and he just squats it like nothing. No change in his facial expression, no concern whatsoever. Then he racks it, and then he puts his suit on, and then he goes out and he squatted. I think that was 998 was his last squat. And then like you can see, there's a YouTube video floating around somewhere where it's me and my buddy Brian that I started doing powerlifting with. You can see us standing in a doorway behind it. So he does this squat, and you can see like my buddy Brian just turns around and walks out of the door. And then you can see me in the background like this, like shaking my head. It was just, I don't know, it was just a funny series of events. I've got a bunch of weird, goofy stories like that, but I don't know why that was the first one I thought of. But dude, Brian Siders is impressive. That guy was nuts.
Well, I'm glad you thought of that one. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to find that video.
It's still on YouTube somewhere. I check every couple of years.
That's awesome. Hey, well, Mike, again, I appreciate you coming on, man. I know it's been a while. Now that we're on different coasts, we haven't got to train with each other in a bit. So I'm really happy and excited you got to come on, and I'm looking forward to see what comes to fruition with you with Battle Farm and everything. I know you got a lot of other stuff on the back burner. So again, man, thanks for taking the time to come on and chat with me today.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good to see you again. Hopefully you get out of the hellscape of California at some point, the freedom-hating hellscape, and then I can get out of there at some point. But yeah, man, thank you so much.
I'm going to do my best, man. Take care, bud.
Yeah, you too, man.
That's it for this episode of The Strength Game. Thank you again to this week's guest and to our sponsors, Cerberus Strength. Be sure to connect and keep up with our guests at the links in the description below. Remember to subscribe to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider to stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, check us out on YouTube and CoachO'Brien.com, where you can find all the video versions of these episodes, as well as show notes, episode schedule, and much more. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of The Strength Game.